Hello, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and welcome to Finance 225, International Finance. Today we're going to be covering Chapter 2, International Flow of Funds. Um, you're either taking me in an online class or a face-to-face class, and this is a supplement to our lectures or our discussion boards. Just in case I missed something, you should have read the book. The book is, even though it's a smaller print, the author did an excellent job. It gives you all the information. Try to read the book when your mind is clear, especially when you're doing any kind of finance or anything else, or it's like learning a new language, and here you're learning everything that you didn't know about international finance. So this is the next step at the community college that I'm teaching at, or as an introduction class. So it's the next step going forward from your corporate finance and accounting classes you've already taken. And the main focus here, there will be some math, there will be some calculations, and I'll give you some cheat sheets on when the time comes for the exam. But the main focus here is to learn the strategy, the thinking, the vocabulary. It's a new words, new concepts, new terminology, and how does that fit in? So remember, here my job as a facilitator or instructor is to help you understand the different concepts and vocabulary. Now, you also remember in this chapter you're going to see we're going to talk about. I'll get into the balance of payments, international trade, factors of affecting international trade. It's just a abbreviation. International capital flows and agencies to facilitate that. In my class that you're taking me with, or if you're taking another instructor, you'll be doing a project. And in my class, you'll be doing a team project. And the team projects, you're going to be running your own MNC, multinational corporation. So you're a business, and now you're going to expand. You're going to diversify. You're going to go internationally, more than importing or exporting. It's just some way of doing it. But you're going to actually do some direct investment, and you're going to open up a facility in a country to sell your product, whatever product it is. And you'll be working in a team. And so every chapter, I will have a little what you should take out of this chapter to incorporate into your final presentation and final paper that you'll be presenting in this course. So let's get to it. I'm going to go, I have some websites, and I have websites embedded in here. The author, when you're reading a book, this chapter 1 is more of an overview. Chapter 2, he provides good websites that I would save. Save the websites and look at them. Most students, they just read the material and they don't look at the website. So I'm going to kind of open up some of the websites. The one you should look at, the Census Bureau. Okay, now I got the website here for latest economic, financial, socioeconomic, political, survey spelled wrong, okay, and statistics. So let's just click on it. I'm not going to go through here. So if I look at the Census Bureau, that's the United States, and remember, when you're looking at any kind of data, especially governmental data or any data from anybody else, look at the source. So it may be a little bit tainted to the right, so it looks at keep an open mind. Let's leave it that way. Okay, so now what I'm going to look into the census data. Holy mackerel, look at the U.S. population. Not bad, and that's in the millions, and this is in the billions. World population, 7 billion, and we're in the millions. Not too bad. I thought it was 500. We're at 321. Are we going up or going down? The numbers are going up. Look at this one, but the world every second. Interesting. All right, so let's go. Now what we're going to do, we're going to look at this. You got Census Bureau statement on Black History Month, congressional voting turnout, living arena, capital spending is what you'll look at, international population estimates and thing. I'm just looking. I'm not going to go into it. Look at this. They got some information. You could get some for July 15, the report, historical look at industry, investment, shares, capital spending. Remember, look at the site. It's a good site when you're going for the rest of the chapters, which I think there's 21 chapters in this book. Go through the 21 chapters, utilize this site. If you're going to be going to finance or accounting or international management or international business, you should start saving sites that you could reference. In the paper and that you'll be presenting, you have to have like 6 or 7 outside sources. This could be one of them. Not just list the source, tell me what you received out of it. Okay. Now remember, start looking at the sites, because what's going to happen, part of your homework when you're in my face-to-face class or online, you will be doing some of the extra homework, or some of the homework you'll be doing. You will be looking up a site, and you will be discussing. We'll be discussing what information and how useful the site is within the classroom as part of discussion. As you go into finance, you have to start having resources. How are you going to know what's going to happen? International world, there's a big world out there. Many people have trouble just keeping up what's happening in the United States. Now you're going to try to keep up what's happening globally. So remember, start looking at the sites, start saving them, looking at them. That's one way of learning it. Instead of reading the material, it gives you that ability to see what's going on. And then you have a better understanding of the terminology that's used and everything else. International trade goods and services, another site here. And I think, remember, I always provide you a United States census. It's the same one. It just gave me to a different one. I'm sorry. I must have did something else. What did I do here? Oh, yeah, it's for foreign trade. When I look at the U.S. government census, let me forget. They've got one for capital flow. They got one for investments. They got one for, what do you call it? Direct foreign investment, the goods going back and forth. A lot of information to cite. This is one I would remember. It's government. It's free. So keep that up. The other one's trade-related country and sector statistics, and I think there's another government site if I'm mistaken. Bureau within the U.S. Department of International Trade, another good site. Remember, the author provided you with a lot of good sites. You can look. I'm going to go through because I got a lot of information to cover. I just want you to look at it. Office Finder, Global Market, Industry and Analysis, Enforcement and Compliance. What do you need? Services. What am I looking for? Market research, report on trade barriers, trade complaint filing, advocacy. Information, statistical analysis, APR export facts. Let's see what we have on here. Oh, it's just going to give me some data. Okay, so overview, export, April, export statistic. A lot of information. You need that for your paper. You need that to learn. If this is going to be your a discipline that you go in finance. I mean, so I'm just going to go to domestic finance. You have to understand international finance. It's all. We're just one big global. If you look at Freeman, the economist, we're a flat economy. So to be successful and to get that edge for going for the next job, I have some international classes. So I have a general understanding. Remember, you're to think, you're to act or think locally. You understand you're local, but then you have to act globally or think globally. You have to use both. I don't look at if I'm looking at, I got to think locally when I'm here locally, but I'm in the back of my mind, I'm looking globally, and globally, I'm always going out globally. How could it affect my domestic market? They're interchangeable. They're like your right hand and your left hand. You need both of them. Okay. All right, info about tariffs on imported goods. There's a site on there, capital flows, investment. And this one here is a little different. Let's see, who do we have? This? Oh, the World Bank. Okay, and I have the World Bank. I had it on there. I should have moved it. China's strong partner. Remember, China's getting to be a good player, a good force. Is that the next economy that's going to overtake the U.S.? It could happen. Remember, we're in a flat economy. All regimes, systems go up, go down, go a certain life cycle. Maybe they'll catch us up as a competitor. We'll pick up on that. Who knows? That's the interesting thing about finance. But remember, finance is always how much is it going to cost me? Where's the money going? How could I? What did we learn from from chapter 1? How to improve shareholders' wealth, stockholders, multinational organization. What you're learning here from a multinational perspective, if I'm a small business or medium looking at and expanding, you're going to have to. These are the strategies that you could utilize. The other thing is, if you're already in this market and you're looking at different strategies, or like anything else, I'm doing something else, and you're taking this course as a refresher, or you pick me up on YouTube. Remember, if you're on YouTube, try to look at the college I teach at. I teach at Harbor College and College of Lake County. I'm a contractor for both schools, or an adjunct, for lack of better words. I'm trying to pay off my student loan, so make sure you call up, say, hey, what class is Dr. George having, so I could sign up. Ask me. Part of my marketing. I teach a variety of classes. Okay, so let's see. So we got the websites. Now, Chapter objectives. Now, chapter objectives, I just take this right out of the book. Explain key components of balance of payments. Explain the growth of international trade, activity over time, international trade. I think the internet, e-commerce expanded, opened up, brought a lot of small businesses in, a lot of trade agreements that the U.S. is that you're going to read about that are involved also is a plus. Explain how international capital flows are influenced by country characteristics, and you look at the politics, economics. Remember, I'm throwing in all the classes that most of you already took. Why do I have to take economics, micro and macro? All makes sense. Why do I have to take accounting? You have to know where the numbers are coming from. You're not changing the numbers. Here's the numbers, my scale. Here's where I'm at. Finances, how do I improve my financial status, okay? And introduce agencies that facilitate international flow. And that was with the World Bank, one of the sites. I'll move it back over on the other sites when while we're going live, okay? And those of you, remember, I might not mention it, but how I lecture here, I'm not reading off a cue. This is how I would be presented inside the classroom, and this is a supplement, just in case I miss something. A lot of times I talk quick. Here, I still talk quick. You can stop me and move me along. Remember, you have the second tier of the mind maps. Add on to it. Read the book first. Have the mind maps. Put your notes like you're taking a lecture. And in the lecture, we discuss the concepts. And this is just another way to reinforce what we talked about in the lecture and concepts. So this should not be your first exposure. This is just an add-on to the book, the concept maps, the lecture, the discussions, the homework, the problems, and working as a team going forward. All right? So those are our objectives. Okay, let's talk about balance of payments. Some of you, like I said, you already had introduction to business or introduction to corporations, at a community college or at a four-year university. So you have, I teach that course also. So it's a balance of payments. We already discussed that in the global section. So I'm looking at balance of payments. It means I have imports that I bought, now I got to pay them back. Now I can pay them back with, hopefully, if you look at comparable work, I have something that other country that I'm importing from has, they're good at that, so we may offset our balance of payments because I'll be I'm importing here, but they may be importing my good there, or I may be exporting here, and they're the ones that are going to be my importing. So it's a relationship or network that we've created. So it makes a difference. But now, what we're looking at from multinational corporation, how do I add value? What subsidiaries? How do I actually go in there and start controlling and have more other than licensing and franchising, a little franchising, but licensing agreements or some kind of a joint venture. But now I want to be on my own. I want to open a business. I want to learn the market, and I have more of a control. Okay, but because it makes sense to offset the balance of payments, not only for the country, when we're looking at the U.S., but also and that's where the statistic, but offset the balance of payments for me as a multinational corporation, because I'm buying maybe supplies here, so I'm basically importing and I'm exporting. And then we're going to talk about the exchange rate, the dollars, when do I, and it's not only bringing the dollars back home to the parent that we've discussed in chapter 1, but it's also bringing home, bringing the dollars or exchanging the dollars, because it's worth more to get supplies from one of my subsidiaries. A lot of what you're going to find out, a lot of companies are, even though multinationals may buy from their own subsidiaries in another country, because the labor costs, when you look at factors of production for economic, labor is one of the factors of production. So the labor cost is less, and I've got an operation there. That's why I open up the subsidiary. So I'm making a product, buying a product. I'm in essence controlling my distribution, changing my logistics, and how I procure my supplies and where I sell to. Okay, so now we got balance of payments, current account. If I'm looking at balance of payments and everything else, we're going to talk about cash flow. Most of it's going to be on the current account. We're going to talk about a little bit heavier on that and definition. So let's look at current account summary, balance of payment. This is what the definition is. Summary of flow of funds due to purchases of goods or services or the provision of income on financial assets. Okay, so there's something else that I'm, either cash, bringing money, or I'm bringing goods, or I'm bringing funds, or something into to offset my what I owe to one of my subsidiaries or to one of my suppliers. Okay, so payments for merchandise. Okay, so the current account is the most active account in finance. So in international, because it's always changing. It's very fluid. Payments for merchandise and services. Okay, so if I'm looking at payments for merchandise and services, merchandise exports and imports, real quickly, represents the tangible product transported between countries. Service exports and imports represents tourism and other services. And other services could be if I look at a service, I've getting X-ray technicians, and I'm not, and I'm a doctor, so I get the X-ray technician, and it may be late at night, and I need to respond. Do I have someone on staff, or it's because of the internet, I could ship that X-ray, the picture and everything else, to a group of physicians, maybe in another country, one of my subsidiary. I'm a big healthcare organization, and ship it there, and they could look at it and respond instantly, faster than I get somebody else to come in there and give me an accurate with assessment of what the X-rays are telling me, which I could do it in-house during the regular hours, but at nighttime, so that's the services that's coming in. And economically, they used to always look at just payments, tangible goods. Now the government is also looking at services. It's not only tourism, but it's other services. I just use an example. There's multiple things of services you could send out, accounting, a lot of other things. Okay, so now balance of trade, different between the total exports and imports. I'm exporting and importing, and if it's with the same region or the same country or the same manufacturer, another one, it makes sense. We've learned that from the macro, from the U.S., we have a poor balance of payments. So it has a reflection on us as a corporation. How do we offset that? So I'll get into it. There's taxes later on. There's tax incentives. Not for more import, but for more export, because the government has a lopsided balance of payments. We owe more than we import more than we export, and that's not good. Okay, factors of income payments. So these are remember, this is all part of. Let me just make it this way. This is part of the what do you call it, balance of payments. So you can see the whole thing. Factors of income payments: income, interest, dividend payments received by investors and foreign investments. Remember, I'm looking where I'm making money. The world is my financial market. If the U.S. is in a slump, I'll go to China. China's in a slump, I'll go to the European Union. Whatever. That's what a international financial manager is looking at. And if you're going in that field, you'll be in some aspect of what we're talking about here. You may not be the chief financial officer yet, but you will be soon. Okay? Invested by foreign investments and financial assets. All right? So now, transfer of payments represents aid, grants, money, gifts from one country to another. Anytime there's any kind of transfer of payments or anything else, there's a paper trail. We've learned that in finance. Okay, some examples. Exhibit 2. Let's see, here's J.C. Penney's, and they look in a position. Cash out, J.C. Penney purchased cereals purchased in Indonesia that'll sell in the U.S. retail. It's a cash outflow, so it's a debit. And see, a lot of people have trouble with debits and credits because they look at debit as a debit card and credit when they said we're going to credit your thing, which is completely opposite when you're looking in accounting and finance. We're not going to teach you that now. Just focusing on that. Don't think of debit. Looking at a debit card is different when you're looking at accounting. Is a positive or negative. Okay, so individual United States purchase CD, Mexican government. So these are all outflows. Now the inflow, the credit coming back in, the Mexican government pays the U.S. consulting firm for consulting services provided by CERT. That comes credit, and this gets a positive. The company IBM headquarters in the U.S. purchases computer chips from Singapore, and it uses. Okay, these are just examples. Excellent, out of the book. Look at it, and then you can see how things are coming in and forth. So now, when I'm looking at international income transaction, entry, payments, credit, and then you're looking at what's the balance? Who do I owe? Which one does it offset? No, I think that's Exhibit 2. Okay, now Exhibit 2 is actual current account balances. So they're looking at export services, total services. Here's the amount. So these are exports, 2,500. I think, I forgot what is this, maybe in in billions. There it is. right in front of me. Sorry. Yeah, I look at a lot of the graphs and charts when we go through. I glance at it real quickly. I'll look at the numbers. Later on, I got to add all the zeros. Remember from accounting, number is this big. You just bring it down. 1,288. That's not as for the whole economy. It's got to be in the millions or the billions. But for here, it's just easy. So remember, so now you know it's in billions. Okay. So I've got, what do you call it? So what do I have? Exports of 2,500 and imports I got 2,835. So net transfer to U.S. is a negative. So current balances, okay, it's a negative 471. Okay, net subtracted and current. From account balance, 4, 8, minus, gives me a negative number. All right? Not good. Okay, so we good? Okay, so now we're looking at that, so we're okay. So now let me just slide in here. Remember, we looked at the book. The examples make sense. Just covering over. What I wanted you to know through this whole chapter here is to know the definitions of terms, what the heck they're doing. Okay, so what are capital accounts? Definition. What's a capital account? This chapter here is basically more of a definition, vocab concept. Definition: summary of inflows of funds resulting from sale of assets between one specific country and all other countries over a specific period of time. I got my picture here. I got to remember to move it up. Okay, so that's the definition. Capital account: assets from one specific country and all other countries over a specific town. That's all. How's the money going? How's the funds flowing? Okay. My capital account. Originally included in the financial account includes value of financial assets transferred across country borders by people who move to different countries. Okay, includes patents, trademarks, relatively minor in terms of dollars to financial account. Right, it's just money. The direct investments is you're going to find out where your cash is at. U.S. capital account website. Okay, and I already have that, so I'm not going to go. Let me see. Did I already play that one? Okay, so the United States Census again, we've got that, and it just takes you to, well, the census you could do by the search and find all the information when doing research. I already have the links already created for you to make it quick. Okay, and you'll find that in your Blackboard course management in Blackboard, your course management tool. All right. Okay, so definition: financial accounts refers to special types of investment, including direct foreign investment and portfolio investment. So what does that mean? Direct foreign investments, I got that in there. Direct foreign investments. Investments in fixed assets in foreign countries. I have it, they own it. Portfolio investments. Transactions involving long-term financial assets, stocks, and bonds. Look, the U.S. right now, unless the Fed starts raising the interest rates a little, very little money's in here. People are investing overseas, because if they raise the interest rates here, will it stifle the economy? And we'll find that out later on in finance. But so internationally, multinationals that made the parent companies here, they may say, hey, maybe we're better off investing stocks and bonds in our other countries that we have subsidiaries in and keep the cash in there. I can always transfer it back, but when? Depends on the exchange rate, depends what I want to do. So I want to remember the whole thing is not looking at one country, one subsidiary doing well. The subsidiary should do well, but the main goal of the subsidiary, the management, is to increase the stockholders or shareholders' wealth of the multinational corporation. This is just one aspect. No different than if I'm domestic and I have just one subsidiary. I could be considered a multinational corporation, one subsidiary, direct investment in, let's say, Canada or Mexico. I don't want them to change. And their whole thing is look at the goal of the organization. Like I mentioned in the last week chapter, I'm a department head, but I got to look at the whole company. Now I got to look at the whole multinational organization globally. Okay, so we have that. Okay, current balance. Okay, so we're all right. Other investments, money market securities, financial assets between countries, errors and omissions in reserves. Measurements can occur. Attempting to measure the value of funds transferred in and out of a country depends on the exchange rate, depends, it's like if you look at stocks, when we go into stocks later on, like Apple stock, I think they're overvalued. And not only me, the financial market, everything overvalued. But why do people buy it? They still want the Apple stock. It's still a good seller. And even though you're paying more than what the stock may be worth if it goes under. And when I'm looking at capital investments, you're paying more for the name brand and the loyalty and everything else. Remember, that could go quickly. The hard buildings, the inventory, everything else, that may take a little bit longer. You have a little longer. You could convert that a lot quicker to cash sometimes. All right, and then the current balance of international trade, and then we have this. And again, here's the other government. I won't turn it on. All right. I want you to check it out. Remember, if I have it in here, we're going to be discussing in the class. Make sure, or in the online in discussion, make sure you might as well look at it while you're reading it. It ties in the whole thing, because if you're reading the material and you look at the web, the way you've got the book, and if you look at the web, click on that. Some of you may have the ebook, depending on what kind of book. If you got the hard copy, but if you've got the links, the publisher gives you the links that you could go in. And have the links already there as a student when you purchase the book. So you have all that access. Read it, look at it, use it. That's the only way you're going to learn. I just try to bring it in here to show you, to stimulate your mind, to kind of get you interested. Okay, growth in international trade. Why is there growth in international trade? Events that increase the trade volume. Okay, now, removal of Berlin Wall, remember, led to reduction of trade barriers in the East. Now, what happened with that, with the European Union, is you've had the West that already is an international market, but the cost of labor was expensive. Now that the wall broke, now you have the East, which is the inexpensive labor. I mean, it's gotten up, but at that time, that was the rationale. That's why NAFTA came in. And we'll just a little historical on that. Okay, so that started the trade in the Eastern. So now they got the inexpensive labor, the goods. They could contain the cost. They could contain the costs of the goods against their competitors. Okay, and they're right there. They don't have to. They saved in the transportation costs or outsourcing, which is still good. We'll talk about later. Single European Act of 1987 improved access to supplies from firms to other European countries. It's almost like the European Union is like the United States Union. Different. Look at each state as an individual country, which at one time they were before they became a federation. Right, before we became the United States. All right, and so the European Union is a federation, similar. They may have a little different kind of a constitution, but it still falls in line. There's no, forget everything else. Forget about the legal right now. Let's look at there's no tariffs or any kind of thing for me to cross from one to the other. I can bring the labor force if they want to pick up, in Illinois and go to California because the jobs there. The labor will move. Or where the oil field or fracking is now going on. So labor will move. Internationally, it may be a little bit harder. If I had to bring a labor in from, let's say, Mexico, they have to have a visa, a labor permit, or from Canada or from some other countries. So it's a little bit harder to bring the labor. But now I can control that labor cost. So, okay, so that opened up increase in trade. Now, the other one is NAFTA. NAFTA is North American Free Trade, and they were in response to this. They got the inexpensive labor, so the U.S. firms to penetrate the market. They're looking at what do you call it? North American Free Trade is between Mexico and Canada, and labor markets previously were not acceptable. So if I look at the NAFTA site, there's some information here. I have the site. Part of it was to penetrate into Mexico to make our products going in there. The other part is to utilize their labor force, which was less expensive than our own labor force. We went down south, and now south in America, like Tennessee and Kentucky, in those areas, and or Georgia, for lack of better words, but the labor cost was going up. Mexican labor was still less. So in manufacturing, and there's potential that economy would be growing. The same thing with Canada. Canada, we don't do as much there, but we do more trading with Mexico, I think, than we do with Canada. Okay, now GATT, G-A-T, General Agreement of Tariffs and Trade. How do we do? Now I'm playing internationally. These are the rules. Remember, part of finance is to understand the rules. My contracts, what are my rules? What are the terms and conditions, for lack of better words? Could I make money? Could I be successful in that market. Called for reduction and elimination of tariff trade restrictions. Restrictions on specific imported goods over a 10-year period, so they will come up with some kind of agreement between the countries, the members, across 117 countries. Inception of the euro. A euro is a currency that was supposed to, some people say the euro is going to replace the dollar. For a while it was there, but if you look at Greece and everything else, the dollar's still doing pretty strong. Now you have China coming into the financial markets, China coming in with the yen, coming up with another thing. You have maybe a one currency. Somebody's talking about that. The World Bank, maybe that may be the currency. If something happens with the euro, the U.S. dollar, who knows what's going on there? Financially, I just have to understand what's current now. I'm looking in the future to make sure that I position myself so if I think one's crashing, I am a multinational organization. I have I'm diversified. Okay? Now, if I'm looking about the euro, and here's the site. I'm going to kick them on there because a lot of people don't look at this site. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Okay? Page not found. Central European seems the page you're looking for removed. Could be looking for. Okay, so they have something in here. They have in here. I have to check. Remember, anything you do with sites on here, what it tells me, I'll check it later on. Okay, reduce the cost and risk associated when converting one currency to another. So if I look at the European Union, when they came up with the euro, instead of taking the franc, from France, and doing a mark from Germany, and I got to do an exchange rate, or going, they just now have one currency. That'd be like the United States. I'm in Illinois, I'm going to Wisconsin, I got to use their currency, so I have to exchange it. Which one is their economy doing better than ours, or vice versa, whatever. The euro made it easier for me. Reduce it. It was another thing. It was for the member European Union members. Okay, and I have a website up there you could find them. Expansion of the European Union, reduce the restriction on trade with the West, no problem. Other trade agreements we have, United States has established trade agreements with many other countries. I think there's one going now. There's a big debate with President Obama. He got powers that he could sign a quick pass. I think with a trade agreement that's going on. Okay, impact of outsourcing on trade. Now let's look at outsourcing. When I'm looking at outsourcing, let me move this back over here. Let me just bring this in here so we could get the whole picture. All right? And I'm looking at growth. Okay, so we got to finish with the balance of payment. Excuse me. Okay, growth and international. Those of you got my concept maps, remember, you read the book, you took the concept map, second tier, I have you add in your information, you go to the lecture, you hear what we're talking about through my presentation, okay, then you go, or if you missed it, you look at this, you can fast forward me, slow me down, turn my volume off a little bit, and pick up on what you missed. Put in your own words. This is how I put it in there, but put in your own words. This is, all right? What's outsourcing? The regular definition, outsourcing, I'm trying to utilize the definition from the author. That's what you're going to be tested on. Process subcontracting to a third party. That's all it is. The legal technicality to another country to provide supplies or services that are previously produced internally. Criticism of outsourcing may reduce jobs in the U.S. No brainer there. Impact is increased international trade activity because MNCs, okay, outsourcing, and I could do for my own subsidiary. This makes sense. I'm global. I'm looking for the best cost, labor cost, or I'm looking for the best market. My market may be saturated. I may be able to charge a little bit higher in a foreign market. Don't think that just because I'm going to a foreign market, my price is going to be lower. No. Depends on the market. Depends what they could do. And it may not always have to be in cash. It could be oil or some kind of a bargain. We'll talk about that later. But you have to attach a dollar amount. Remember, that's why there's some errors in what's the value of some of the goods or multinational or the subsidiaries. Okay, lower cost of operation, job creation in countries with low wages. So I'm helping the country out, low wages. Remember, as the countries, their standard of living goes up, they want a better quality of life. That means it's going to cost. As it costs, it could be a market. They could buy my product. But now the labor cost gets a little higher, so I'm always looking for the better. Should I move my facility at another place? Should I open up in a subsidiary or close down this one or sell this one and open up that one here? But utilize the money I made selling this subsidiary and transferring that money to my new subsidiary, or just expanding it because my market is growing. I'm going to keep this one in this region, and now I have a new region. That's how multinational corporations have to think. Always a dollar. What's going to cost me? What's my return on investment? You're in finance. Always a dollar. They always tell you that accounting is the language of business. Accounting just tells me the basic. It's the creativity in finance. How do I make money on money? That's an important aspect. Okay, managerial decision. Managers of U.S. May argue that they create jobs for U.S. workers. Managers of U.S. Multinational corporations, hey, what we're doing for the job. Shareholders suggest that managers are not maximizing the multinational corporation MNCs. I hate the acronym. It's a tongue. English is second language for me. That's a tongue twister value. I just say the whole thing out. You know what it is. I do it here. It's easier on paper. Okay, maximizing a multinational corporation's value. Okay, that's what they should be doing. Not that I'm creating jobs for you. I know it's harsh. I'm just telling you. Remember, I'm a global company. The shareholders, they're not all from the United States. They're from different countries. They're looking as like an investment. I want a higher return. How are you going to do this? Management. You're not. I find other managers. I still want to be, I'm still social responsible. Don't look at me. This is fine. You still have that social responsibility. Good for business. All right. As a result of the commitment to creating jobs, managers should consider potential savings that could occur. You have to look at it. If I outsource this is the best thing. If it's only a few pennies and you're losing all the jobs, I'm looking at big savings, okay? As a result of outsource, possible bad publicity or bad morale, that could hurt my marketing. That could hurt my brand image. I teach marketing and advertising. So that's also, international marketing doesn't make a difference. It could hurt. Bad publicity hurts the brand. And how much do I bring it up? If it hurts the brand, people aren't buying my product, I have very little to transfer because I got to sell something. Or they're not buying my, my inventory, my supplies I'm selling. That could occur among U.S. workers, okay? You should always think, that's what I say, look at the dollars. If it's only a few pennies, don't nickel dime, but there's got to be a good percentage that's going to change. If I'm doing this, changing it, it's changing the overall the corporate, the whole multinational corporation, not the subsidiaries. Okay? All right, so we took care of that. Okay, trade volume among countries. Okay, international trade conditions for several industries. And again, this looks like it's a government account. I always could tell by in here. Look at the link. Let me turn it on. That's the link. Again, no, this is a trade government. Another good site. A lot of government site because it helps you. It'll give you a good idea. It's a good, solid base of information from the U.S. perspective. You could also look at international trade or some of the sites in the country you're going to be considering for running your multinational operation. That will be the major project. Working as a team in this class, okay? So it has international trade update. It has information, July trade agreements, shows the future information. Okay, so I'll just turn that off here. Okay? Okay, annual international trade volume. Between 10 and 20% of its annual gross domestic product. So I'm looking at that's my productivity, the GDP, gross domestic product. It's the GDP. What's my productivity? 10 to 20% of my GDP, gross domestic product, comes from international trade. Okay, so Exhibit 2.3. I forgot what this is at. Okay, so if I'm looking at where it's coming worldwide, distribution by exports by 2,000 billions of dollars. Canada, Sweden, not too much. Where am I at? Where's my big one? Here's the U.S. It doesn't say Mexico, Brazil. It just gives me an idea. China, Australia. All right? They're just telling me where my gross domestic product, for my annual, a portion, where's that coming in for the U.S. economy? Remember, I have to understand the U.S. economy because if it's going sour, it's not working, I'm going to move my money someplace else. Okay, Exhibit 4 is looking at, what the heck was Exhibit 4? Distribution of U.S. exports and imports by country. Okay, so let's look at us. Exports. Where's exporting out. China, 70%. How much are we importing? 20%. Already, you got a balance of trade deficit. By how much? 13%. How could I, as a multinational, a parent in the U.S., help offset this? That's what the country, that's what, and the government's going to say, hey, how could you bring money in here? How could you start doing more exporting? The money that the government is going to have is more for exporting. Small businesses, if I can increase how many small businesses go globally and start exporting. I'm not even talking about multinationals, exporting. That's from the government. I just thrown that a bit of information here for you. All right? So now, dollars. About 20% of all U.S. exports are to Canada. Pretty good. Well, 13% are to Mexico, export. So we're importing more from Mexico than we're exporting. Okay? Canada, China, and Mexico are the key exporters to the United States, responsible for half of the value of all the imports. China, I know for sure. Mexico, yes. Canada and Japan were pretty good. What do you call it? Alliance with them. Good trading partners. Okay, trend in U.S. Balance of trade is just some information. U.S. balance of trade increased substantially. 2009 economic conditions weakened. Demand for foreign products and services decreased. Recent years' annual balance of trade deficit with China exceeded $200 billion. China owes us. We owe China a lot. We're bringing it in. But look what happens. When our economy sputters or has a recession, we're not buying the product. So China now is looking, okay, U.S., you're the main buyer of our products. Where else? So China still, the economy is doing pretty good because it's self-sustaining itself. They got people now have money, the ends, and they're buying product. So now I, as a multinational, I may still keep some operation here, but I shift some of my assets or shift some of my products or goods into China. I'm already established in there. I have a subsidiary in there. So I'm not exporting or importing, but I may be bringing the money back to the parent MNC here in the United States. Okay? Remember, wherever the parent is at, that's where the money's flowing. You're always looking where the money's flowing. Okay, so we took care of that. We took care of balance. Now let's look at the factors affecting international trade flow. Now we have a lot. Now here's just a lot. Trust me. We have another. Let me just talk a little bit faster. Okay, impact of inflation, impact of national income, credit conditions. Okay, impact of government policies and exchange rate, impact of inflation. Cost of labor going up, inflation. So if I look at this, let me just cover this because you're going to need that anyway. You have to understand this. Remember, we're going through the first few chapters. It's more of a macro perspective of the countries I'm going to be doing my subsidiary, so I understand what's going on with them, which makes sense. Should I open up a subsidiary there, or how stable that economy is? And then the last chapter is going to be more micro, going to the specific country that we're going to be looking at. Okay, so now factors affecting. So costs of labor commonly have an advantage when competing globally, especially in labor-intense industries. If I'm manufacturing, I got a lot of labor, I want to go where the labor is the cheapest. But if I'm in the software, I just have, or I could use robotics. Labor is not labor is important, but I need a higher level of labor. I need a more educated. I'm not saying that that's not an educated labor. I need a more trained labor force specifically for software. So I need a higher level of critical thinking and expertise. Remember, I caught myself. Remember, when you're live like this talking in the classroom, remember, I'm not reading off a script. I'm just trying to add on to what the author wrote, add on what we discussed, and just kind of wrap it all up together. Okay, now inflation. Inflation has a big thing. Current account decreases. So I'm looking at this, my inflation, my balance of payments. Remember, my current account, summary, the cash flows coming in, due, purchases goods. So inflation eats it up. So, all right? That's what I like about the concept map. Just flip right back there and you can see the definitions. And that's what you should be doing to your map. When you don't understand it and you have the two tiers, my mind maps are utilized. These are like 60 slides, I think, or something else that I put in here, down into one page, and then two sheets, for lack of a better word. You could see the whole chapter right in front of you. Depends on what tier I do. And it could go back and forth. So in class, I could just jump back and forth depending how the discussion goes. I just want you to understand the use of mind maps in college, the use of mind maps in business. It's a good tool. You could cover a lot of information. This doesn't do you any good if you haven't read the book, if you haven't discussed it, if you don't understand the material. This is a summarization. So now you've done this, and now you want to just tie in the pieces so you see how everything fits into play. Okay? So if inflation increases relative to trade, okay, so it eats up the money. Okay, so another impact of national income. If I look, current account decreases. Again, this one here, inflation. Does the current account, both accounts increases? Inflation brings it down. Income, right? Impact of national income. If national income increases relatively to other countries, right? The income to the cost of living goes up, so my current account will decrease. The flow comes back and forth. Okay? Now, credit conditions. If I'm looking at this, tend to tighten when economic conditions weaken. So if I'm looking at what happened to credit, I'm having trouble getting credit as a small business or a multinational organization. This is I keep on forgetting where I'm at. Multinational corporation. From that perspective, this is what the author in this course going forward is looking at right now. So where do I get credit? I can't get it from the host or the parent where I'm stationed at. I try to go outside. Okay? So when there's credit crunches here, just other places I could get maybe not as favorable, but they're lending, so I may have to pay a higher cost. But the minute this economy here, remember, I'm a finance. I don't get stuck in terms of condition. I have it here as 10%, 3%, 4%, whatever, and all of a sudden, because I had to pay the higher percentage, something happened up here. Somebody approaches me, say, I'll give you a 2% off. I'm looking how much cash I could bring in. That means I could fund another subsidiary or fund something else. Finance is always looking. Remember, it's fluid. You can't just say, I got the contract, leave it. Even the contract, is there a way I could get out of the contract, buy out of the contract? If you're a good financial manager, you always have an out. It may cost you, but in the short term, but in the long term, you'll have a higher return because you're changing your strategy. That's what you have to look at. I'm changing my strategy depending on the environmental forces or what's going on, my customers, the governments, whatever's happening, because I am global. No different than I would do here in the United States. If I see that Detroit's going bankrupt, I start moving my assets to another state or find a different supplier. It just makes sense. It's common sense. No different than me as an individual. If I'm going to be laid off, where do I go? I start looking for other jobs if I know the company's going to close down. Remember, multinational organizations are looking at the same thing from a financial perspective. Okay, so I got credit conditions, impact of government policies. Holy mackerel. I have a lot here, but I'm not going to go. Restrictions and imports. Let me go on. I'll give you this thing so you at least know. If I just give you the definitions, you have it here, subsidiaries, labor law. All this is government policy. What? Some governments got so much red tape. If I look at the European Union, I don't even want to do business in it. I'll find another subsidiary, another country. But I may have to go in there because it makes sense because my customers are there. Or my supplier is there. Someplace, remember, I'm looking financially. Not only that aesthetically makes sense or I owe someone, I still have to look how much it's going to cost me. That's part of finance. Is this a good agreement or a venture or a partnership to do? Is this a good strategy? If not, don't lose the money. Forget my pride. I'm a manager. I'm here to help the shareholders increase it. We made an error. Let's do a correct. We never say an error in finance. We're doing a correction. It's beginning to sound like the Federal Reserve. All right. I've been listening to Yellen talking. We're doing a Federal Reserve. We're doing a correction. That's what you're doing. I'm changing strategy. And it makes sense, going to the moon or driving the boat. You got to turn that rudder just a little. Not oversteer it or understeer it. Okay, increases prices, limit consumptions. Imports. So tariffs. Remember, you have two types of tariffs, revenue and protective. Both of them will generate money. Increases the prices, limit the consumption. Quotas limit the volume of imports. So I'm slowing down my imports. I want more export. I do something like that. Some other country is going to say, hey, you're going to play like that, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm put tariffs, and that's why you're going to find out what agencies monitor it, so we don't have that big fight. World Trade Organization is how do we minimize tariffs and restrictions so goods could flow globally. All right, subsidiaries for exports, no problems. Government subsidize, subsidiary, sorry, subsidize for exports. Some government, and even the U.S. government, if I'm a small business, will subsidize. Or if there's something that I could say, hey, I need some money to start up this operation, a multinational, a medium-sized or small business, is there any grant money to help me expand into another a market? Look at the gov.trade, SBA. Look at the international area there. There is money there if you're exporting, not importing. We have enough stuff coming in. We need stuff going out to make money to offset the balance of payment. From that's what the U.S. government is looking at. Okay. All right, restriction on piracy affects international trade, lack of restriction on piracy. If I got something else with the licensing or copyright, and I'm going over there, and they're basically going to copy or pirate. I was looking at the news today, and I'm just going to show that some of our most modern jet, what do you call military jets, the newest ones coming out, are majority of parts and everything else all come from China. So don't you think they already know how our military is set up? Or they may not know how the components work, but they know these components are there because they're making it, and we're, the subsidiaries, they're making it there and bringing it there. I'm just open-minded. But when you're looking at a global, looking at the world as a global, that's irrelevant. We're one big global economy. I'm a multinational corporation. Remember, even though I may have a parent, I'm a parent in the United States or someplace else. When it starts going with investors and shareholders and they take control, and that parent may be there because it's economic, it's safe, it's a good, they don't have any, they have good laws and everything else. But if it's costing more to somebody else that gives me similar but a lower tax rate, they're going to move the operation. Because the shareholders are important. Remember, I'm taking this from a perspective, from a finance. Don't look at me as anti-American, anti-jobs. That's not the thing. I'm a multinational organization looking at at my market. My job is to the stockholder. If I'm domestic, my stockholders are it could be foreign, domestic. I have to respond to them. If the economy in Illinois is too high and everything else, that's why a lot of businesses are leaving. There's nothing wrong. Don't give me the politics. I'm looking dollars. Financially, they're making a change because I can't sustain it. But others are coming in because there's incentives by the government. Or they're coming in because this is the hub, the financial market. I should have my corporation here, so I could do all the wheeling and understanding the markets and be right there where the action is. But my subsidiaries or my distribution centers or manufacturing or whatever out there could be outside where there's the best cost effectiveness. And overall, when I'm looking at, remember, overall, I'm doing is increasing my shareholders' wealth. Okay, so we got restriction, environmental, and this is kind of killing us a little bit. I'm all for the environment. Don't those who are looking at me say, but it's costing. How much is it costing? What happens? Impose higher costs on local firms. It doesn't cost anymore. Placing them in a global disadvantage compared to firms in other countries who may not have no pollution. Look at China. The people in China are looking at the U.S. embassy because they give the pollution report. They don't trust their own government. There's no pollution, and there's thick cloud going over there. People coughing, gassing, dirt and everything else. What do you mean there's no pollution? We're not. We could see what's going on there. So, but that's a disadvantage because they don't have all the pollution. They don't have all the requirement. So when we do everything else to be a good corporate world citizen, are we hurting our own financially because we're hurting the economy of the U.S.? Remember, help it, but let's not go to the extreme. Let them catch up so we could still change the environment. I don't. I'll leave my thing on the environmental restriction that are not subject to the same restrictions. Okay, so environment hurts if there's too much on there. It raises the cost of goods. It raises the cost to make the product, and that ultimately the costs that I'm trying to export costs more, unless I have a weak dollar. Okay, labor laws. Countries with more restrictive laws will incur higher expenses for labor, other factors being equal. Okay, so if I got certain laws that I got to pay a minimum wage here in the U.S., in other countries there's no minimum wage, doesn't make sense. You know, remember, labor depends on my industry. Is it heavy labor intense, or is it it's not as heavy, but it's more of a skill set? So that may not be an issue for dollar amount, because for each individual, he or she is producing a lot more return for the investment because they come up with a software or an app that I could sell. So I have fewer people working on it, but the fewer they do, they are more productive because I could sell the product with. I don't need all that inventory. Similar to manufacturing, I need a car. It's very labor intense. Even with robotics, I still got to bring the material in. Okay, now tax breaks. Not necessarily a subsidy. Sorry, I'm stuck in subsidiary. A subsidy, still a form of government financial support, might benefit many firms that export products. That's where the taxes are at. We talked about it. Country related trade requirements requires various forms. Every country obtaining licensing for countries can before they can export or import. Bureaucracy. Some countries, and that's where you go. Where some countries you got to pay the bribery and everything else. China is a country. It's hard to get it into there. It's not only due to the bureaucracy and everything else through the Chinese government. They're getting better, but the different way you have to market. You have to adjust to their market, how they trade, and how they, so you have to understand their economy and their market. I'll leave it at that. Okay, country security laws may impose certain restrictions when national security is a concern, which can affect trade. I know some countries are going to buy some of the shipping here, and they're from the Middle East, Jordan, I think it was, or Saudi Arabia, I forget which one. But then there's a security issue. Do we, where the labor is coming in? Are we opening up, or should the security issue, when I look at the imports and coming in, be controlled by the government, so we can make sure that we have adequate security to protect the homeland, for lack of better words. Okay, government ownership and subsidiaries. Some governments, China, there's ownership. A lot of Russia may have 50, even though they're privatized. Some of them may have some government owner. Some of the socialist countries, government has some part of it. So you're not only dealing with another corporation. If you're doing a joint venture, the government is your partner, which is good. Okay, policies to punish in government, country governments. If I'm looking at policies to punish country governments, countries to restrict imports from countries that fail to enforce environmental laws and child labor laws, we may not do any trades. We try to put our pressure only if we're buying a lot from them and they see, again, the dollar amount. If they don't see an impact in a dollar amount, I'm not going to buy your product. You only bought $5 or a million, and another country, before we were the biggest buyer. Now what's happening for oil, so we kind of have a good oil prices. China, their economy is booming. India, their economy is booming. So now so I am multinational. Which economy is going to give me a larger return? Or, I may have to charge less, but there's more of them buying my product. Again, that's finance. Just looking at the dollars. Always look at the dollars. Right now, I'm trying to tie in the dollars, but we're looking at strategies. Why do I do it? Summary of government policies. Every government implements some policies. No formally ensures completely fair contest for market share. And if I'm looking at what's going on with Russia and Ukraine, and I'm not going to, the annexation, invasion, whatever you want to call it, I'm not getting into that. But what happens when the U.S. imposed policies saying we're going to freeze your assets or whatever? What did Russia do? They did the same thing, but then they made it harder for like McDonald's or U.S. corporations, name brand, and they were having more inspections, more everything else, made it harder for them to operate within the organization. When we were fighting some kind of another war or something else in Britain, who didn't want to join in, then all some people, or the French didn't want to join in. We were going to boycott French fries, but French fries were American made. But a lot of people didn't realize you want to do something. Oh, they're not going to fight with us, and we're going to talk about that later on. All right, so that's a little impact. Remember, it's a politics, short term to go around. Okay. Where did I go? Factors, income, credit conditions. Okay, let's look at exchange rates. Current. Okay, may correct the balance of trade deficit. Let's look. Remember when I look at the exchange rate. Did I get so wrapped up in all this? Okay, we're doing good. Okay, may correct the balance of trade deficit. Okay, exchange rates when home currency is exchanged for foreign currency to buy foreign goods. Home currency faces downward pressure, so they want to make the dollar a little bit weaker, for lack of better. Lending to increase foreign demand for the country's product. When our dollar is strong, we could buy a lot of stuff. That means I could import, I could buy a lot of stuff. I got a strong dollar. Problem is, we already buy too much stuff, material stuff. We need to export. So strong dollar means to buy our products cost. If we have a weaker dollar, our products are less expensive. So people, when they do exchange rate, they get more dollars for their currency and they can buy more of our products. Okay? In a nutshell. Okay, may not correct the balance of trade deficit. This one may correct, it may not, when other forces are at work. The government, the policies, inflation, and everything else we talked about. Limitation of a weak home currency is what? Competition. Foreign companies may lower their prices to remain competitive. And sometimes people say, even though China's in a free, supposed to be in the market, in the market, but they still control the currency. They kind of prop it or something else. But let's say for some reason they did manipulate the currency and it went down. Now the competitors could do two things. They say this is unfair, or we could even lower our prices now. Because remember, different countries. U.S. is selling something, and European Union is selling something. And which one is stronger? And so our dollar is weaker, so people buy more, but they may say, hey, let's cut back. We may not make as much, but we're looking at, we want to sustain the market. We want to move the inventory. Okay? Impact on other currencies. Country that has balanced a trade deficit with many countries is not likely to solve all the deficit simultaneously. You can't do everything. It's like I got 20 credit cards. I try to do the biggest one, and right now, if you looked at from the map that we looked at, it was China is our biggest one. We only are exporting 7%, and we're importing 13%. We should get it closer, even if it's 50-50. We should get at least so it's a wash. But it's going to take us a while. But that's the one you have to focus on, our biggest one. Prearranged trade transactions. International transactions cannot be adjusted immediately. Lag is estimated to be 18 months or longer, leading to a J-curve effect. So this is all just showing you when you do graphically. Here's the U.S. Treasury. It's an 18-month curve before I could make any kind of adjustment. I have to plan on that. That's time. So you see how hard it is sometimes when I'm looking at it. 18 months. I got to put something else. I got to put it, get it ready to make it to transfer it. I have to think. All right. I'm prearranging international transactions. There's a lag. It's almost like the unemployment rate. Is the economy doing good? How could it be doing good when unemployment rate is still the same? It's because unemployment is the last thing. It's a lag. And the reason it's the last thing because me as a business owner, I'm not going to hire anything else. I think the economy is improving. Once I know it's improving, not just one quarter, a couple quarters, to get out, if I look from economics or periods. So now I know it's improving. Now I hire people in. So remember, it's a lag. Unemployment is always a lag. And in this one, it's also a lag. International trade, I do some kind of transactions or change something. It's an 18-month lag. Okay, intra-company trade, and I talked about that. We purchase products, even though internationally, because of labor intense or wherever, within the multinational corporation. Why should I go out? It's just they're doing it well. I've got the best price. Why should I give it to my competitor or another supplier when I control the distribution? Okay. All right, so I got rid of that. I got that. Okay, we're doing good. Now, the other one I'm looking at is international friction. And all governments cannot weaken their home currencies simultaneously. Action by one government to weaken its currency causes another currencies to strengthen. Governments attempt to influence exchange rates can lead to international disputes. Real quickly, easy. Okay, so I got those are factors. Impact, cost of labor, credit conditions. We're doing good. Okay. Impact and government, we went through that. Okay, we're all right in this one. Okay, now let's look at international capital flows. Direct foreign investment is my biggest cost because I'm actually building something there, and but I'm building it with the dollars there. So let's not get to don't look at it as I'm looking at their dollars. I'm just when we look at the parity and just convert it back to U.S. dollars, with the exchange rate. So there is something, but it depends when the exchange stronger or weaker. When do I bring the money back, or when do I show it on my books internationally from a multinational corporation? Okay, direct foreign investment. Factors affecting direct foreign investment. Okay, changing restrictions. New opportunities have risen from removal of governmental borders. I may already have a thing in France. Now the European Union came up. I don't have to open up another one. I had something going on in Germany. I said, hey, just close enough. I could just use that distribution. That opened up. So now I got a national cash flow, direct foreign investment. I could actually, or they want. China wants more foreign investment. Pretty soon, if whatever happens with our relationship with Cuba, close enough neighbor, got a lot of people here, could we start investing in there? They have a lot of things they want. If their economy is going up, how could I do that? They're already lining up. What could we do? Should we invest over there? That's what they want. Bring help, labor, and everything else. Now, is it going to be expensive? I don't know. Or do we just make it there? It's just another, I'm a multinational organization, and Cuba is a new market that's now open to us. Okay? Changes in restrictions and barriers. Privatizations, direct foreign investment is stimulated by new business opportunities associated with privatization. Privatization is what happened in Russia. China is kind of going that way, but they have like what they call enterprise zones or international enterprise zones only in there. Because there's a lot of, I think there's something, I read something like 43 billionaires in China. Communist country, and they're not government, individuals, all right? So it's there, but you have to be in a certain area, just slowly opening up the markets to the foreign, but they're still controlling it. They don't want to be like Russia, just open up completely and have a chaos. They want to basically control it. They looked from what happened in Russia when they privatized. Okay. Potential economic growth. Countries with greater potential economic growth are more likely to attract direct foreign investment. China. I'm just only touched a little bit of what I could, my potential. If the government stable and still enforces it. Remember, government could just, like they did in Cuba 50 years ago when we were there, they just took it all over. They say, hey, it all belongs to the government now. Could they do it? Yeah, they overthrow new government, new regime. It's ours. See you later. Even though they may pay back maybe some of the restitution when the countries will have formal agreements. How do I pay back for those that got when the government took over in the industries? Became a government owned. Okay, now tax rates changes. Countries that impose relatively low tax rates on corporate earning are more likely to attract a direct foreign investment. And you see that with inversion. A lot of companies, multinationals, their parents are here, they're just moving over. You also see Americans not coming back because the tax rates are higher, even when they're overseas as expats. Okay, exchange rate. Now this is a tricky one. Typically prefer to pursue direct foreign investment in countries where local currency is expected to strengthen against your own. All right, so I'm looking at the exchange rate. The local strengthening, so that's good. Okay, I got a strong thing. I could do more bringing in my own goods or buying goods there because I got strong currency. I had, mine may be weak. I haven't brought it back to the parent. I'm operating there. I'm strategically looking what's going on in that country, and strategically when do I transfer the funds back? When is the right window of opportunity? Okay, international portfolio investment. So that's direct. It's a big. This is where most of the money's at. Remember, not in your current asset. That's money going back and forth, right? Most of your money is in the capital flows. Okay, an international portfolio. If I'm looking at an international portfolio, And this is just my abbreviation. Factors affecting tax rates, okay? Investors normally prefer to invest in a country where taxes are relatively low. That makes sense. Interest rates, same thing. Money tends to flow to countries with higher interest rate, not low. Remember, I'm investing. I'm buying bonds, security. I'm doing something. I want to invest. I want a higher interest rate return. Look at it as which bank do I put my money in? U.S. interest rates are almost like zilch. You get nothing. But the European Union is still solid, got insurance, everything else, or even China. If I trust them, I could put my money in there. I get a higher return on interest rates. Okay, as long as the local currencies are not expected to weaken. Otherwise, weaken it could be through inflation or other factors. Exchange rate. Investors are attracted to a currency that is expected to strengthen. Then I can buy more. Remember? Okay, so those portfolios. Now, impact on the national capital flows. What do we have? If I'm looking at that amounts, S1 includes only domestic, okay, and includes domestic and foreign product. So you have the two supply curve and demand. Remember we talked about that economics and long-term interest rates. It's hard to read. J1 and J2 amount of business investments. Which way the curve goes. All right. Look at it. It's part of from your corporate. I don't have the time now. I think I'm already over an hour. Let me see. U.S. Impact, international capital flow. I'll move along. Most of you want to see the concept math. What did I miss when I did the reading? What should I pick up? Relies heavily on foreign investments, U.S. manufacturing plants, offices, and other buildings, U.S. Treasury debt securities, right? That's for capital flowing. Debt securities issued by U.S. firms, U.S. reliance on foreign funds. Come on. We have to borrow the same thing to pay our own debt. We're still doing good. I think we're at the gross domestic product, our output. I think it's still almost like 15%. We still got a market, not much. Some countries are they make less than what they're importing. We're still good, but not by much. Let's hope our administration does pretty good at that. Access to international funding allow growth in the U.S. economy. Here we go. Also made the U.S. more reliant on foreign investors because we owe them. So now it helps our economy to stabilize it because we're going through a recession or some say might have been depression. We're going to depression, so we had to borrow funds to pay our own debt or our creditors. And that could be just a loan or something else, because we owe to China. China's buying a lot of U.S. Treasury notes to sustain it. To make sure, because if we go, we go belly up, then the dollar's not worth anything. They lose everything else. But China's now diversifying. They're moving their capital investments. They're not buying as much U.S. Treasury notes. So there's something going on globally, and that's what the multinational finance manager is looking. What's happening globally? Okay, foreign investments attract the U.S. foreign markets when interest rates in their own home country substantially lower than that in the U.S. In the United States. Remember the interest rates, cash, what am I paying? If I got to pay higher interest rate, that's less disposable. It cuts into my profitability, which cuts into my shareholders' equity or wealth, which basically will reduce my overall projection of growth for the multinational corporation. And they're going to be upset. So what do? You could do it for short term. Or you could state it in the annual report saying, here's what's happening. We understand this, we're going to write it through. We could, we've got retained earnings, or we're anticipating this, so we have some risk management strategies involved. Strategic management, finance. Always put money. Watch the dollars. Don't let it trickle away. Okay, now agencies that facilitate international flows. International Monetary Fund. What do they do? Real quickly, they've got a website. I'm not going to go through that, but here's the website. You could go on there, and let me throw it on there. Here it is, International. Are they talking about Greece? Heck, why would I get? First thing on there, what's going to happen? They got a bailout. They're working on that. International Monetary Fund, IMF, just know it. That's what they call them by. Among countries on international, what the heck did I do here? I just ignore it for here. I just put one too many L's. Okay, if I look at this, monetary issues, promote cooperation, promote stability and exchange rate, IMF, to member countries provide temporary funds, that's what they did to Greece, to correct imbalances of international payments. That's not really, I'll leave it at that way with Greece. There'll be a whole discussion when we go into the chapter on long-term financing. We'll worry about that. That's the last two chapters. We'll cover that. Okay, promote free mobility and capital funds across countries. IMF goals to encourage increase internationalization of business, to promote free trade. That's their whole goal. Okay, to keep it going. Okay, now CFFF. Now don't worry about the acronyms. You have to know it's compensatory financing facility. That's why I go CFFF. It's almost like CFCs for, never mind, for environmental. Attempts to reduce the impact of export instability on countries. That's all it does. SDRs are special drawing rights. Financing is measured. It gives me rights to take chunks as I need it. All right, so we have that international monetary. How do I draw the money out? With certain conditions. That's what they're giving a loan, and then Greece has to meet certain economic changes to the pension, to the work rule, or whatever. Some austerity programs before they'll be able to get the next payment. Okay? Now the World Bank. What's the World Bank? International Bank of Reconstruction and Development. Major objective is make loans to countries to enhance economic development. ALDR is a lending institution to countries, developing countries, to help them get better. Okay, now if I look at structural adjustment loans by the World Bank, enhances countries' long-term economic growth. So it's got certain loans, specific, contractual for this. All right. Co-financing, funds are distributed, official aid agency, export credit agencies, commercial bank. The World Bank will give to different agencies or agencies, non-profit agencies that are out there. Okay? Okay, now, World Trade Organization. What do I hand it? A World Trade Organization, International Fund. I'm sorry, that's what I did wrong. I put on the wrong one here. Okay, it's separate. World Trade Organization. I just clicked it on here. Sorry. I do these to help you. I read the author. I try to take the information and put it all in one easy way for you to learn. And a lot of times I'll move around. I got a lot of things going, just like I would in the classroom. We're live. Okay, provide a forum for multilateral trade negotiation. World Trade Organization. Settle trade disputes related to Gantt. We talk about that later, right? Where are we at? Here's how I want you to start looking at it. I look at it. Where the heck did I find it? Okay, grow to national trade. We didn't have that in here. Remember, it is trade agreements. Where the heck am I going? Okay, well, you can find it in there. Your map will have it open. All right. Member countries. Giving voting rights, make use of judgment about trade disputes and other issues. I got to move along quickly. International Finance Corporation, IFC. Major objective, promote private enterprise within countries, so to help support, provide loans to corporation and purchases their stocks. Traditionally has obtained financings for the World Bank, that's up in here, but can borrow on the international financial market. So this is kind of, I should move this around like this. All right? It makes sense. So these two kind of work together hand in hand. Okay, you see how I did that? Okay, now, World Trade Organization members, you're given voting rights, other special issues, make judgment calls. So if I'm looking at World Trade Organization, we did good. There are other members to say, hey, are you really playing fairly? Because remember, once they rule on one thing else, you set precedents internationally. So that's why, and we want everyone to free trade, move goods back and forth. That's the only way it's going to work. So there's not one taking advantage. Okay, Bank of Settlement, for lack of better words, BIS, facilitates cooperation among countries with regard to international transactions. Provides assistance to countries by experiencing a financial crisis. Greece, referred to as central bank, and the lender of last resort. All right. So you have, it's like your pay loan. I'm not internationally, but it has its I'm trying to bring it in like I would in a classroom so you could make some connection. So it's not all vocabulary. What's this similar to in the domestic market? Now I know this is similar, operates like this. Now in the global market, what's added? What's different? Oh, it's the same thing, only more countries, more exposure instead of just here. People is looking at different countries that is working. Remember, this is a macro view that a micro a multinational organization has to be aware of because that's the environment they're working in. Okay? Now, regional, the economic to facilitate government, 30 members, has relationship with a number of countries, promotes international country relationships that led to globalization. Okay, regional development agencies. Inter-American Development Bank, real quickly, focuses on the needs of Latin American. Okay? Asian Development Bank establishment to enhance social and economic development in Asia. African Development Bank, focus on development in African countries. European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is basically created in 1990, fairly young. Helps Eastern European countries adjust from capitalism to, from communism to capitalism. Okay, so we covered all that. Okay, so I'm finished. Let me see. Could I finish this? Yep. Okay. Now, the last thing, so we did everything. We covered everything else in there. Are you okay? So we're finished. I should be almost done. I just want to cover one last thing here. Okay. One last thing is, I'm just covering this on, so chapter 2 is when you're going to start looking at. Part of your major project is running your own multinational corporation that you're going to develop as a team. It depends on the size of the class. We may have 4 or 5 teams. You're going to be looking. You're going to be all individual multinational corporation. I'm going to look at you as subsidiaries expanding. Okay, and then later on you're just going to be reporting. And I'm going to be an investor. Which one should I invest in? Which companies? What you're going to basically come up with as your final product. Okay, identify factors. So from this chapter, you should be able, if you're building up as a team, someone should take several chapters that can affect the balance of trade between the U.S. and the country that you target for your business. Explain how these factors may affect the demand for your product. Remember, you're taking it from a multinational, but you have to understand the environment I'm working at. This is chapter 2. Which of these factors is likely the most important affecting the demand for your product and the host country or the subsidiary you're planning to open up? You're expanding. This is your new subsidiary. You're only going to do one subsidiary. You're an 8-week class or a 16-week class. We move fast. Determine whether the product you plan to sell is already one of the main exports in that country. Okay? Am I exporting or am I importing? If I'm already exporting, is it a plus or negative for me? Okay, it could be a plus, depending on my supplier, depending on the resources. That's probably why it's there, or depending, could I outsource? Yeah, a lot of there. Don't look at it all negative. It may not look well until I see all the numbers. Just like you're buying a car. I want this. How much can it cost me? How much can it cost me? What's my bottom line? Boom. Whoa, a little bit too much. Let's go back again. What do I don't need? Okay. The other one's assessing trade data, determine whether the product you plan to sell. I'm sorry, that was mine. And the last one, assessing import controls. Review the import controls set by the country's government. Determine whether your business would be affected by trade regulation. And you have all the sites. You start using the sites. Remember, those of you who are going into international business or international finance, or international marketing, whatever internationally, you should still start having a data. Start saving websites. So when you're doing your paper, you're doing your research, you already have that there. Okay? We have everything here? Okay, so here's where we're at. We've done that. We covered chapter 2. This is international flow of funds. Read the book. Use my concept maps. Add on. The more you write, the more you look at it. The book should be your first exposure. Author did a great job. Take your time. Don't read it when you're tired. Read it. Finance. The other chapters going to have some math, some problems. Be sharp. Be alert. Just because I'm reading and falling asleep, it's not by osmosis. This isn't Matrix where you can just put it on and I know how to fly a helicopter too. I know international business. I know international cash flows. So first exposure, read it. Take your time. Print out my mind maps. Add on to it. Then in the class we discuss this. Or in the forums if you're on online class with me, and then you look at this as an overview and look at which areas, so you could either move me along, and you go in here and says, okay, let me see what the balance of payment. I have this. What did I write in? Remember, what did he write in? What did he say? And remember, you could just turn me off. I hope not. You know, what I mean, it's not, the more senses you involve, writing, reading, listening, hearing, seeing, the better, the higher probability it goes from short term to long term. Okay, and then you can see, oh, I missed this, oh, he has this, and I could go back. Remember, you could always stop me at any time. It's YouTube. All right. So that's it, and then start getting ready on this. We'll have the teams. It's a whole different process. I'll work with you on that, just like you would be. So you get an exposure how I would come up with the dollars, how I would fight for the dollars, how I would research, and this so it gives you a good solid foundation. This gives you a good solid foundation, and you know we're in chapter 2. We've got 19 more chapters to go. They get better. Your mindset. You begin. You know. You're beginning to understand this. You're beginning to see it. Remember, the first half of the book is basically macro, and then we go micro, a little bit more detail. That's where more of your formulas and calculation will come in. Don't worry. There's a lot of information here. You'll do fine. You'll work with me. The quizzes are set up, so it'll be you'll learn this, go this, and have a quiz. Learn this, go this quiz. You'll do fine in this class. All right. So I'll see you in our chapter 3. Thank you again. My name is Dr. George Mochocki. This is Finance 225, offered at Harper College or other community colleges, or also have similar classes. So if you have me on YouTube, sign up for the class. It's the only way you're going to know it, but it's a good quick overview. Bye.